I'm Beth the Builder, and I've already started this. You just watched it. But this is basically like you could leave a shape as basic as this with drawing any kind of art, carving, etc. But I'm not going to do that, obviously, because otherwise this video would be over. I want to put as much detail and shading in as possible, because that's what's going to make it like be that thing. So we'll call this wood burning shading video. That's basically what I'm thinking it is. So I'm gonna do as much dark and light shading as possible to get this crow, it's a crow, to be that thing. So to really emphasize where there would be shadows, what would be dark on a crow, what would be lighter. I've obviously done some of this. This wood's dark because this is just some scavenged pallet wood that's left over from my headboard that I chopped up and then I've glued it together. That's why it's clamped, because I didn't have a bigger piece. So I chopped a narrower piece and then I put it together, which is I kind of like, it can look really, really cool and rustic and fun and give you like interesting cracks and everything. This isn't like a super serious thing that I'm doing. It's kind of just practice for shading and things, because that is really how you like upgrade your wood burning from being very one-dimensional, two-dimensional to more 3D advanced stuff, art, etc., you know. So I'm using some tips that I haven't usually used because I'm just running out of good tips for this, and I don't like them. So I'm kind of reverting back to the ones I usually use, which are basically this round guy. So I really like this one, round, and the straighter ones. Oh, here, this. Like this. This is literally what I was looking for. I could not friggin' find it. This guy. So I need to buy wire, and then I wouldn't be having to use some of the tips that I really, really do not like. Like this one currently on my wood burner. I hate this tip. Why is it shaped like this? What is the point of that? I don't know. But basically those are the two. I'll put a picture up here. The two that I use the most. And then for shading, obviously, nope, not that one. They're like this, which I've also will put a picture up. So basically they're a basic tip and then they've been flattened slightly. So this one I would bend more, honestly, so that it's easier to get on the actual piece you're burning. Anyway, but those are the two basic ones I'm using. And then I'll be doing, obviously, shading. So then I'll be using the ones I just showed you, okay? It's not, you know. So yeah, this is basically advanced or intermediate, I would say. So trying to take, this is currently very beginner, very, very basic shape. Even if this was going to stay very basic, I would still obviously add more detail. But I'm basically going to make this as complicated. I'm gonna make it as detailed as possible with just using my tools. And if you want to get like real crazy, you could go back in with like paint or something and highlight using like white paint or something, white or gray, highlight areas that need to be like lifted and higher. But basically the idea is that like the pale wood that's left is the highlight, and then the stuff that I'm shading is going to be the dark, obviously dark points. So I have some reference pictures of crows. They are cartoony. They are sketches, basically, which is kind of what I was going for. And then also I will look at real pictures of crows because that's a great reference for this. And I'm basically just looking for highlights and low points. I'm not looking at super specific detail for like a real life crow because that's too much for what this is. But we're getting closer to that, at least in wood burning terms, because I've done a crap load more wood burning than chainsaw carving or regular carving. I've done more rock carving probably, but probably not as much as I've wood burned. So, because I just like wood burning, it is relaxing. It is chill, it is quiet. I really, really like it. So if you like any of my wood burning stuff, you can check out more of my videos, or you can also check out wood burning stuff I have on my Etsy. That was a great plug. It was so seamless. It's like I scripted this, but I didn't. because I don't do that shit. This is all organic Beth. Anyway, I'm wearing the same clothes as I just chainsaw carved, but these videos will be far apart. Maybe this one will be first and you don't even know about the chainsaw carving, so I won't even talk about it. Maybe my chainsaw carving came out first and you're like, Beth, you're wearing the same clothes and your hair looks the same. Who cares? You don't care. What? Why am I talking about this? I've did that witchy wood burning thing, which I really love. I need to get some good wood for big old cookies, and that would be great. Yeah, shading, that's what we're doing. And it really has to do with like having good tips, newer tips, which I don't have, but really just like control, knowing like wood, different kinds of wood is gonna burn differently. Harder wood versus softer wood versus smooth wood if you've sanded it really good. I didn't sand this at all. And then it's control of your machine, of how hot you have it set at and how much you're letting it burn. So it is a more advanced skill. I'm not an expert, but I'm definitely, I'm getting closer to being more of a master of wood burning and stuff and knowing a decent amount about it. So let's get to it. Okay, so I feel mostly finished. This wood was pretty hard, so not the easiest to burn. But for the most part, as a practicing shading and stuff like that, I like it. The reference pictures I used are pretty simple. One is using like a very crosshatchy drawing type of outline to it, which I think is helpful for this. Because it really highlights the dark places and the light places. I thought that was really helpful, but really, like, it's about using the right tips, and I'll put a picture of the ones that I used throughout because it is important to use the right ones for shading, and there are a few that I used that I found to be very, very useful. And then also sanding is very, very useful because then that you can take away any dark places that you want to lighten up slightly. You can always reburn any little areas. That's really, really easy. And then I found this to be really useful is using an X-Acto knife to, in really, really tiny areas, you can scratch away little places to make it lighter, which is gonna create those highlights, which I said like before, like you could use paint, but this actually worked really well. So then I could lighten up like around his eye that got kind of dark, obviously, because of that overburn, just because of where your pen is. Like it wants to burn not just where you're placing the tip, but around that area, because that's how hot things work, especially with wood. So then it helps like in a little really small area, instead of having to sand this whole place and lighten up this dark area, I just like scratched away a little bit to kind of like create the white of his eye. I'll get a close-up of this. It's, it's not as like 3D crazy as I maybe kind of wanted, but this wood was more difficult to burn than I expected. And you kind of don't know until you just do it. I think the maybe greener wood, like this witch one I did, I'm looking at it right now, is maybe in some ways burns better in some ways. In some ways it's harder. I did have a lot of overburn with this because it was so light, but it being kind of green, it didn't get as dark in some areas. So pros and cons to this being a little bit greener, this being very, very dry and also very hard. Pros and cons. So is it as detailed as I wanted it to be? No, but for basically like creating the effect of this thing only using shading, I think it's doing that thing. And it's practice and also showing you guys what you can do with the wood burning tips. And I used 3 basically standard shading tips that should come in a pack if you buy them, or they come with your wood burner. So I had a problem, or I keep having this problem with these stupid pens. I think I'm going to replace them because they're garbage. So I had another one that should be like brand new basically, and the wire part just like came out. So this is laying on the ground. This is what's inside here. And then the wires have a little thing that attaches to them. And I've had this twice now where this just comes out. And then the wires are like trying to melt each other inside there. It's a fucking pain in the ass. These are garbage, okay? Just, let's be honest. I'm not happy with them. They are making this more difficult. And like this one I taped up to prevent that from happening. But I know it's still gonna happen. So the machine's fine. It's those freaking pens. They're so cheap. So be aware of, even if you get a decent enough machine, the pens that come with it are gonna be cheap as hell. There's certain crafty kits and stuff like that, especially on Amazon, you'll find it'll be like 108 piece set. It'll be something like this. And it's counting all the tips, of course, you know, so it's like 30. And then the 2 holders and like $70 or $100. Like, whoa, what a good deal. You get a 200 piece kit, and they're counting each individual piece. And some of it's like the main thing that you need is mediocre, and then all the other pieces that come with it are cheap as fuck. The same thing happened like with my rotary tool. Like it was like a 40 some piece set, and all of the tips, the burrs that came with it are friggin' garbage. They're garbage. Like they're terrible. I don't even know what these carve. Like soap maybe? Like I don't understand. They're garbage. So it's a similar thing of like when you buy stuff like this and you're trying to not break the bank and spend $500, where trying to find something that does the thing and you need the pieces obviously to get going, like the pens or burrs or whatever, but then like the stuff that comes with the thing that you need is just so fucking cheap. So it's very frustrating. And of course you can upgrade that stuff. It's not that big of a deal, but it can be annoying. But I've known that with these pens for a while. I got replacement ones because immediately one like melted and I was pissed. So I got 2 replacement ones that came from like China. So that tells you something, just saying. I will have to look. I think I can just get replacement pens that are maybe a little bit higher quality. That would be the way to go. So, but yeah, you can do a lot. This is obviously a little bit darker wood than this guy here, or any of these cookies that I've carved or I've burned. And you can really see on the lighter stuff, the overburn and shading on stuff like that. Like you can really see that. Pretty happy with it. I'm gonna come back to it. I'm gonna let it set, come back to it, eat something, and then do a final shot of it. Maybe do any little final details that I want to fix or whatever. I always run a fan, and that just keeps the smoke out of your face, which is really convenient. And otherwise, yeah, it's a super chill hobby. And then I just have some scrap sandpaper around that I use to get any of the carbon buildup on my tips off of there as I'm going. And eventually you just have to replace your tips. So shading is a skill. You're not going to develop it overnight. You just got to keep doing it. But you can do some really fun stuff with just the basic, design, lines, curves, It's really simple. Shading obviously just gets into a different territory, but you'll get there, and as you start to understand wood burning and the material and what kind of fine-tuning your machine, you'll get there. So just like me, I started off doing super simple stuff, lines, words, maybe some super simple shapes and stuff, and now I can do shit like this that looks really cool, and I like it. I think it's fucking awesome. So, and if you like it, that's all you gotta do. That's the only person you have to prove anything to. I appreciate you guys. I really, really do. It means a lot to me. Like, subscribe. I'll have a new video next week, so thanks for watching.